Hello, Warrior TV. Steve Knapp, the Mindset Warrior, finally back live for this year. I think everybody would have seen that I haven't been around the last few weeks, so it's very nice to have an episode of Empower You back on with the superstar, the Addiction Warrior, Jason Bishop's joining me tonight. It's going to be fantastic. We've got quite a few similarities around a few things that we did earlier in our lives that may not have been beneficial and how they affected us. But I thought just quickly before I bring Jason on, I think in fairness, I should let everyone know where I've been and why I haven't been around. And yeah, my father a couple of weeks ago managed to contract COVID and ended up in a coma. So he was in hospital in a coma for a while. He's still there now, but I am back because I have the good news that the prognosis is looking good and he will be home this week. So there should be no more reasons for the Mindset Warrior to not be around. So I'm going to play the quick video, guys, and I'll be back with Jason in a minute. We'll see you soon. Good morning, Jason. Thanks heaps for coming on to co-host with me on Empower You tonight, or this morning for you. It's great to have you here.
Good evening. Good morning. Yeah. Excellent to be here.
Good afternoon to anyone else in other parts of the world. Wherever you are, we're happy to have you. So, yeah, what the main thing I think would be great for us to have a talk about tonight is I know I think we've both been fairly open with how we had a relationship with alcohol. And I saw that, was it about 15 that you kicked off?
Yeah, it would have been 15.
Exactly the same.
Yeah, I think it's that. Well, for us at that age, it was that age.
Yeah.
It was just about when you knew people that were old enough to buy it for you, or you could get it, and we were all just finding a beach and drinking, and you just roll into it, don't you? You start, and it's all pretty innocent. Yeah, but I mean, and everyone's having a good time and a good laugh. But I quite quickly I understood it could easily and quickly change the way I feel. So this is why I say my relationship with alcohol was never good.
Yeah, it's a bit like the ex-wife. It seemed good while it was going on, but in the end, it was always going to go pear-shaped. Because I was very similar. I started drinking regularly and heavily at about 15. More for myself. I started playing football with a senior club at that age, and obviously young men, that was the culture and that was the done thing. And without being anywhere near mentally or physically prepared to cope with what I was about to do to myself, I just went head first, dived straight in, was one of the lads, and exactly the same as what you said. Was you knew that things felt differently to what you'd ever felt before that had come into your life, and you can really sort of start using it as an different aspect to your life and thinking you're changing your reality into something better when realistically you're making things 10 times, 100 times worse.
It did quite a few things for me. I mean, I lost my grandfather at 14, and I wasn't dealing with that. I wasn't talking about it. So that pain and whatnot going on. So quickly it changed that. I didn't have to think about it, and I could concentrate on just having a laugh. But what you've just said there is a really important point to think, because I played rugby, and I was asked the question a few years ago, do you think playing rugby and the rugby club had anything to do with it? And I said, well, most definitely, because it's part of fitting in. It's part of being, I think you've just said it, it's part of being one of the lads. And then when you go up the level and you start playing with older guys, then they really take it on board that you're the one that will really throw it into you, really start drinking to be part of that group. Though some of those people are still my friends,
Yeah.
but it's a leader into, and I think every club's the same.
Yep.
There's
In every
certainly, there's certainly a handful within that environment that'll say, "Oh, I'll go out on this one, and I'll be that guy. I'll drink and I'll fit in, and I'm look at me, and I'm having a great time." And I mean, I was always really, you probably wouldn't have guessed it because I was arrogant, but I was insecure.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. You know, you don't have to be insecure when you're drinking.
No, you can't be.
No.
You lose every chance.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You don't have to be insecure, but you don't have to be insecure when you're playing rugby. Yeah, because you're doing what you're doing. But then afterwards, immediately you're like, oh, where's that stuff? I don't feel insecure. I don't feel I'm part of the group. I'm fitting in. Yeah. And once we start going down that track, then it is a slippery slope.
Yeah, it's so hard to pull yourself out of it too, because once it's all you know, when you've started so young, not that I want to solely focus on people that started when they were young, because I know it can happen at any age, but I think when you're definitely not mentally ready for it, it's almost impossible to drag yourself back out until your mind matures enough to have a proper understanding of what situation you're putting yourself into, or maybe you do have a couple of dangerous situations that come your way while you're under the influence that might make it wake up a bit. They certainly didn't for me. Like, it didn't matter how many close scrapes I had that were going to be life-changing or life-ending. It didn't make a difference until I was, this is going to sound horrifying, I would have been at least probably 37 years old before I woke up to realise what was actually going on and how long I'd been stuck in this trap. So what's that, over 20 years to wake up?
Well, I mean, I see people quite often posting, and it may be their experience, so that's fine. Yeah, I'm not saying that's nonsense. Yeah, but I had such a good time whilst I was drinking. I traveled the world, right? And I talk about this. We did British Lions tours. Yeah, so we did South Africa, we did Australia, we did New Zealand. I went to Canada on tour. I went to Oktoberfest in Munich. Everything I was doing was basically based around drinking.
Yeah.
I'm having a good time. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
it's never a bad time, is it?
yeah. So, I mean, I didn't have that experience. Yes, I had experiences where I hurt myself and whatnot, but nothing that really ever made me think, oh, wow, I got to think about this until I hit 30. Because at 30, I stopped drinking. We had I'll call it a discussion at the office, and I listened and I made a choice to stop drinking abruptly. And I ended up in hospital for a week with delirium tremens, you know, and I was hallucinating for 3 days, 4 days.
Jeez.
Right. And even then, when I went back to work, I didn't have the skills. I just hadn't developed the skills from the age, just through my teens and my early 20s, and to deal with. I didn't know how to deal with life. I really didn't, without alcohol. So things got a bit usual. We'll call it usual. Yeah, the same things started to happen. The same things were being said, and I just ran straight back to what I knew: how to get away from the pain, how to get rid of the stress, how to deal with the stress. And I started drinking again. And then at 40, by the time I'm not sure what exact age it was when I actually turned yellow, but I spent 10 years in a horrific state where it was just terrible, depressed, hating life, just drinking, turned yellow, and eventually collapsed because I wasn't prepared. I didn't know what to do, and I wasn't prepared to take a step back. I wasn't prepared to really look at what I was doing. I don't know if I'd gone too far. I talk about shutting down. Yeah, so I kind of with the whole stress thing going on, right, and the trauma, and now you know how it kind of works, I got to a point where I was like, this is all I know.
Yeah.
And then you're in this real rut that the hole is dark and deep, and you've no idea how to get out of it.
Yeah.
You're losing your muscle mass. You're really unfit. You're looking at other people and what they're doing. If they're playing rugby, and you think, I used to do that.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh yeah, well, I was this and I was that, and you're living in another world. You're living in another life where you're comparing yourself to who you used to be. And the more you do that, you drink more and hate yourself more.
Yep. Yep. It's the most vicious cycle, isn't it? And
you're nowhere near who you believe yourself to be.
no, you're a shell of who you should be.
Yeah, like, whoever that is.
Parts. Yeah.
You know, I say it because I can say it. I could talk about myself all day long and say I was simply underperforming at every level of life. Yep. So I was doing things, and if I had customers, I'd do my best to make the customer happy and right. But when it came to a stressful situation, I'd be letting myself and them down.
Yeah.
And then if there was a discussion to be had, I couldn't really defend myself and say, well, no, actually, that wasn't my job to do that. Yeah, because you think, well, I can't defend myself, can I?
Yeah.
Because now I've lost my argument.
Yeah.
And this is what happened at the office, because unfortunately, whatever is happening with us, once we get into that state of drinking to any level like that, the first thing that's going to happen is somebody's going to say, Bobby, you're drinking too much. You've lost your argument.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more to it. And obviously we wouldn't be here if we're making excuses. But it's very simple for somebody else then to use that as a tool against you.
Yeah, you become easily manipulated.
You do, and then you go back a step again.
Yeah. And what do you do then? What always worked before?
You know, I mean, I've openly said, I mean, how could I possibly ever judge anybody that has an addiction, right? But when I look at it now, I just think, how did that happen? How did I become that guy?
Yeah.
Because that person complaining about life with his friends over a drink, all patting each other on the back, saying, yeah, it's worse than that, isn't it? Is really not who I am. And I said it to one of the guys I used to drink with. I said, but unfortunately, it's exactly who I was.
Yeah.
I can't get away from that. Is exactly the person I become. Whilst you're still putting on a front as much as, because I didn't have a lot to say. I really didn't have a lot to say. I wasn't well, really unwell. Yeah. But you're still trying to, oh yeah, but I can deal with it.
Yeah.
And physically and mentally, you have fallen apart because it's been going on so long. Yeah. And it doesn't matter who you are, how strong you think you are. You're not eating, you're not sleeping, you're drinking, your lifestyle is horrendous, you're not exercising, you're dehydrated, you can't think properly. My mother said you couldn't make a simple decision in the end.
Yeah.
Right? What with the stress and the alcohol and everything else and no food, we're not fueling our body, we're not sleeping, we have fallen apart. But we don't like to see it and can't see it. And what we don't really need, I think, is other people sort of openly telling us in an unfriendly way, we'll say it, yeah?
Yeah, that condescending talk of...
well, degenerate drunk was one way a friend of mine put it.
Nice and supportive and something very beneficial to helping you out of a situation.
Yeah, and it's surprising because we were very good friends at one point. And when I heard that, it's like somebody just stabbed you in the back and
Yeah.
twisted the knife.
Yeah.
You think, oh wow, like, you know, life just completely fell apart.
Yeah.
Because we do, I think, and you might agree or disagree. You know, you get to that point where you understand if you don't do something, you're just gonna tip over that edge.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. I can, that resonates with me so well. And
so
even after that point, I still had a couple of moments where I did continue to try to tip over the edge as well. It was that when you finally hit that really sharp line of knowing, but not quite having the control yet to override the impulse, I suppose.
well, you know what we talked about yesterday again. There's that fear factor, isn't there?
Yeah.
You know, because it wasn't just the alcohol. You know, it was the people I was with, it was the environment I was in.
Yep.
If I felt like I didn't fit in, I was always in that pub. I was spending equally as much or more money than everyone else.
Yeah.
It was my stool in my pub.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So it was my comfort zone. Years before, a girlfriend of mine said, "What is it about this pub? What is it about this? Why have you got to be in this pub?" And in fact, numerous girlfriends said it. But it's like, of course, I'm not sure if you do understand it because you feel so comfortable in there. It's the only place you want to be.
Yeah.
And then what you're doing when you're there, you're with the people who you deem as friends. Some are, some probably never were, right? But then you get to your drinking and your bullshit and you're laughing and you're joking. And in the background, your life, although you're trying to hold it together, is falling apart. And then you get to a point where you just say, "Oh wow, how? When did it get me? When I understand the argument, you were never in control of alcohol, and people say it's genetic, and I said, my mum and dad drink a glass of wine and maybe 2 pints.
Yeah.
Their relationship to alcohol, right, is, and they don't do that very often, right? They never got drunk.
Yeah.
My mother drove the car, right? It's all very sensible and nice, yeah.
Yeah.
But at some point, I said, I don't know. I mean, I don't think I ever was in control of it, right? And I'd agree with that from my personal experience. But when did it really get me? And I think it's when it was the realization that I was stuck in life. I didn't want to walk away from the business. I couldn't deal with what was happening in the business. I couldn't deal with all the broken relationships. I couldn't deal with bills. I couldn't deal with everything coming at me while I still wanted this lifestyle and clothes and cars, and it was all getting out of control.
Yep.
Yeah. And then beer goes up. So all of a sudden you're not paying your bill because that 50 quid you could have given someone is a night out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said this to a gas company. I owed them a ridiculous amount of money. She said, can I ask you why you weren't paying us? I said, it was my money. It wasn't yours. She goes, whatever do you mean? I said, look, I said, I woke up in a hospital bed not so long ago. I said, so everything went very wrong with alcohol in my life. Yeah. I said, if I gave you 50 quid, then that meant I might have to have a night in.
Yeah.
So it isn't that we see people focusing purely on the alcohol side of things, but it's not. It's everything else. And those stresses then don't make you think, I've got to address this. You think, I'm going for a drink.
Yeah.
I can't cope with this. I can't cope. I'm going for a drink. And then in my experience, I started bleeding. You know, I was vomiting blood for years.
Yeah.
I'd go to the toilet, there'd be blood. I wasn't thinking, oh, I must see a doctor. Right? Because I knew what the doctor was going to tell me. The doctor was going to say, Jesus, how much are you drinking?
Yeah.
So again, that fear, and I'm thinking, well, I'm not changing anything. How the hell am I going to change this? Yeah. And the decisions I might potentially have had to made about my life. So you think, I'm going to go for a drink.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go, right? And you think, and now you look at it and you think, oh, wow, now you see how it all went so very wrong.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just,
It's amazing.
it isn't simply the fact that you're putting too much of that stuff, which we can't get away from the fact that it is a poison, right? But I kind of think when everyone focuses on that, it's somewhat irrelevant. It's a choice we make. Do we want to drink it? What's it doing to us? What's it doing to our lives?
Yeah. It's the
Yeah.
same as telling a smoker that that's going to kill them. No shit.
Exactly
I'm a smoker. I know it's going to kill me, but you telling me if you think that has zero chance of making me stop, but more likely to make me light one up and blow smoke in your face. It's the most pointless mute argument to tell someone that's battling something like that it's killing them. Like we don't know.
Well, I think the whole thing, I was watching something else. I mean, obviously, I watched lots of stuff, different perspectives, what different people have got to say about overcoming addiction and alcohol. Because it's interesting. Anyway, I mean, I've got my own ideas, and it's worked for me, which is what I'm obviously promoting, because when we are drinking to that extreme and we aren't eating, then physically we're not going to be very well. We're not eating, so we need to learn to eat. So there's all very basic things that we can do which aid us in making these choices and moving on in our lives.
Yeah. It's so much a big encompassing topic, isn't it? Where you can't focus on the addiction. You've got to focus on the habits and lifestyle around the addiction, I suppose, to have any hope of working your way through it, so that you're making better decisions around things that are more beneficial to your body. And then that is going to reset the mind as well.
So, I mean, one of the things that I did say to myself, it'll kill me.
Yeah.
But instead of it's very different though, isn't it? If somebody else says it's going to kill you, you'll just go, yes, of course. Okay, move on, give me a drink. Right? Yeah. But when you start saying, if I do that, I'm not going to have another chance, am I?
Yeah.
And when you can't, it's a bit of a cliche. In fact, my life over the last few years has turned into a cliche, but it's quite funny, right? When you can't walk and you genuinely think, wow, I appreciate walking again. Yeah. And then you say, do you know, if I do that again, if I don't learn to deal with life, then that appreciation, that gratitude of life that I have will be gone, because I'll be dead.
Yeah.
And when you start telling your own brain, your own mind, you'll die if you do that again, things change.
Yeah.
But what I kind of knew I had to do was deal with all the things that I'd never dealt with. And I didn't know anything about how the brain works, neuroscience, biology of it all, nothing at all. I just figured that I'd not accepted anything. I didn't understand anything. I didn't understand myself. I wasn't accepting myself. I judged myself and everyone else. I wasn't comfortable with who I was. Yeah. And then you think, well, do you know what? You've really got to make some very basic choices here. And I was talking to a guy. I met him. I've followed him for quite a while. And I met him the other day. I went over and introduced myself, and we were chatting. And he said, "Oh, did you accept it then?" I said, "You know what? I was riding my bike on a mountain, so then I was just crying." So I think all these emotions that I'd been pushing away and down and anywhere but me dealing with them for so many years. I said I was just bawling my eyes out going up the mountain on a bike. I said it felt so good. Yeah. But And I was having these discussions with myself and working it all out and just releasing all this stuff that I'd been trying to bury for so many years.
Yeah. And,
Because
and that works so well, doesn't it? All you're doing is just stripping things back to basics through understanding.
yeah, and I think, you'll see this written anywhere. You're your own best therapist, you're your own
Yeah.
best coach, right? But I wasn't in any way in fear of what I might find or dealing with anything. Because if I could have taken my life to that extreme where I wouldn't be told what to do and I wouldn't this and I wouldn't stop and I wouldn't right, then I kind of figured I was quite comfortable in the fact I could go right the other way.
Yeah.
But there were points, I think, where as we were talking, because it's so highly important, this communication, discussing, having somebody to offload, somebody as a sounding board, somebody that might give us some advice if we ask for it, as opposed to trying to do it all yourself, is beneficial. Because I see too many people, as I'm sure you do. Oh, I'm back today, and I'm like, oh no, back to day one, back to day one, back to day one.
Yeah.
Whilst they all focus on alcohol. And you think, what is it? Addiction starts with pain and ends in pain. Yeah. So why are we doing what we're doing? If you ask, if you start to ask yourself those questions very gently, yeah, then you start getting some answers. And then you get more answers, and you have questions. A load of people. Yes, there was willpower involved, but I think the willpower was getting to the top of a mountain on a bike, right? So, this thing of willpowering our way through life. I was trying to do that, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a big struggle with thinking that willpower alone is going to really help anything. Willpower without the understanding of why you're trying to do something, like having a big enough why, just going, well, I just have to decide I'm not doing it. You're just going to be totally miserable and end up broken eventually. Like, some people can pull it off, but not many. Most people that only just go, yep, that's it, I'm not doing something that deep down they really do want to do, without anything else, like you said, without reaching out and talking through it with anyone, just going fully alone and going, no, that's it, I'm just not. It's making life pretty hard.
I was reading something, and it was saying that you might reach a point and lying in a hospital bed, just you've just come out of an ICU, you wake up in a hospital bed, you're in a complete state. You get to see yourself for the first time. Yeah, because all of that bravado and the mask, the armor, call it what you want, has just been stripped away. And you can put it back on if you want, mind. But then I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
Yeah.
Right. So you've taken a mask off, yeah? So you're looking at yourself and you're thinking, oh, wow, how did this happen? And then you understand, not all of it, but you understand what you've been doing for the last 25 years.
Yeah.
And then you think, no, then this needs to change.
And how powerful is it being in that situation?
So I write, I was angry. I was very angry. I was in a hospital bed. I didn't really understand that I'd almost died. I collapsed, right? I was unresponsive for 3 or 4 days. My mother was told by one nurse, I'll see you in 3 days. And then when she saw my mum, she said, I thought I'll never see you again. I didn't think he'd be alive, right? So I don't know anything about that, really. But when you can't go home and you're being fed by your mother and you can't make it to the toilet, put it very politely, right? You can't get out of bed, you can't walk, and you really have a good look at yourself. You can't go anywhere, right? You're stuck in this hospital bed. and you're desperate to go home. You got a lot of time to think about who you are. And I come out of hospital, and I was like really, really angry at who would put me there. Yeah, which isn't how it happened, is it? Right? But at least what I did was I took all that energy that I'd been, because for us to be drinking like we are, not sleeping, not eating, to be stressed and anxious, depressed, takes massive amounts of energy.
Yeah.
Massive amounts of
Much
energy.
more than just being happy and cruising along.
But we're not, we don't understand that, do we? Because we're in such a dark place. I'm not sure we're in a place where we want to hear it.
Mm.
But if you've been pouring that much energy into being that way, you have an abundance of energy to say, well, I'm going to use it in a positive way.
Yeah.
So now I am going to go out and walk, although it hurts. And then I am going to go to the gym with very little muscle mass. And all of a sudden you're thinking, well, do you know what? I can't care what these people think. And then you think, well, they're not. And then when you look around, you think, well, they're not looking at me anyway.
That's a good realization.
They're not.
Yeah.
They're not. They're not
It's all
interested.
about me.
They're not interested in me, right? Because this whole thing that everyone's interested in us, no, they're not
at all.
Right. So then you go to the gym, and then my friend introduces me to cycling, and then I put Lycra on, and I'm making these little tiny choices about doing things, but it turns out they were all massive choices.
Yeah.
Because as I'm doing these things, I'm stripping away these things. Well, I don't care. You can't hide anything in Lycra.
Yeah.
If those people in the gym did have something to say, so what?
Yeah.
Yeah. And all of a sudden you think, well, actually, you're making choices now based on who you are, not who you think you are.
Yeah.
And it's such a massive shift in the way that I was thinking about life.
Yeah.
So I was changing my perception of myself by doing things. But of course, to do that, you've got to change the way you think about yourself anyway, because you're making choices.
Yeah. And I like the way you've put that too, is a lot of people think to change, you've got to go and take massive action. But you've just been proof in point there that tiny action from a massive thought change is what can really propel you different. You don't have to go out and sprint a marathon tomorrow. As long as you're making that decision, this is what's going to be a beneficial guide for you instead of something else. The action can be small, but then it becomes consistent. And the small, consistent action over time becomes like the tsunami, doesn't it?
Well, and there's the issue, right? So that then turned from going to the gym and making these really quite healthy choices, making sure I was getting enough protein into me, and discussing carbohydrate intake and hydration, getting a personal trainer to help me over. It was only a 3-month period, but we worked together and learning off him, gaining knowledge about the exercise we were doing, what was beneficial for right. And I said to him, I played rugby. So I said, you now treat me like I've never lifted a weight in my life. And he said, yeah, but you told me you played rugby and you used to train. I said, no, we won't get anywhere. I said, if I believe I know how to do this, then I shouldn't have employed you. I said, so you now treat me like I've never been in a gym in my life, type of thing.
Yeah.
So I am prepared to just listen to you tell me what to do, and I'll do it. Yeah. And then you make massive leaps, yeah?
Yeah.
Because I listened to him, and I went to the gym when I didn't see him, and I was eating like we suggested and like we agreed, yeah? And then my friend that was coming to the gym with me said, these people are looking at you, your body's changing shape. He said, they're talking about you over there. He said, that your body is changing shape, mate. He said, and theirs aren't. I said, no, but I'm properly now, I'm fully engaged in building a foundation, if you like, of a healthy life.
Yeah, brilliant.
Because I'm looking at our health holistically. And I understand this because I played rugby and I played music. I understood what rugby and music did for me when I was in an emotionally bad place.
Yep.
And so it was distraction, but it was also the feelings, the chemicals, it was really, oh yeah. And I used to eat properly. So I understood about training and music and these good things, right? So and the benefits of it. So then, of course, I started riding the bike, and that was all nice and gentle. And then I bought a road bike, and I couldn't wait to do my first 100 miles. Then it was 200 miles. Then it was 300 miles. Then it was 300 to 400 miles a week. And I'm still training, right? So I'm still going to the gym. I'm riding my bike. It's not sustainable now.
Yeah.
Now I've gone completely. I've gone into that now, not like a bullet at a gate, but it's to the extreme again. I'm overdoing it.
You've almost turned that into an addiction.
Well, it was going that way. And what we get then is, and friends of mine, in fact, my friend from the Gold Coast said the other day, he said, oh, I thought you were going to die on the bike. He said, you were doing that many miles. He said, I thought, oh, well, it's a better addiction than the other one, isn't it? And I said, well, not really, mate. No, because no addiction is good.
Yeah. If both of them can kill you, there is no good or bad.
Right. because once again, we go back to, you'll more than likely be dehydrated. You won't sleep enough. You won't be able to recover enough. Yeah. So what you're doing now is you're battering your body. So you're pouring protein into you to try and get your body to recover and repair the muscle that you're splitting and breaking. I got lots of points to prove mine. Yeah. And then I found out that they were all a bit irrelevant anyway to other people. Right.
Yeah.
But what we've done is, again, with this is lacking self-awareness. Why did I want to be the best drinker? Why did I want to be the strongest, fastest, or whatever cyclist? Yeah. So when I understood that I couldn't be the strongest because there's some really strong guys, yeah, I could outcycle them. I could do more miles. So you've turned something healthy into something. You were enjoying it, mind. Don't. I'm not saying I wasn't enjoying it. But some days I'd come in with big black rings and it'd be raining and horrific weather. My mother'd be like, "What are you doing?" And I'd be like, "No, I've got to ride the bike. I've got to." Right? It just became an obsession, an addiction, in many ways. Clothes, yeah. When I come out of hospital, I'm spending thousands of pounds on clothes, and you're not thinking about it. Yeah. So I'm not. And I'm still going to the pub. Yeah, because I couldn't break that addiction. But that's a personal choice. And I've said it. My friends who were sitting by my hospital bed, thankfully said, we will not drink with you. We won't stand here, sit here. We won't be in the pub if you pick up a drink.
Yeah.
So I'm quite fortunate there, right? But I couldn't give up on not going to that pub. So I had to ease myself out of that one. And then I had to raise my understanding of myself, my self-awareness. What was driving me to do all these things that I've been doing? Yeah. Why did I have to be that guy? And it really comes down to one thing. I'm not enough.
Huge realization.
Right? Which is, it's a phrase, and it's a kind of phrase, right? I'm not enough.
Yeah. It's when everything's coming from your ego rather than your heart.
Yeah. And then once you start unraveling that, so people say about willpower and how long's it been now? How long's it been? How long's it been? It's irrelevant to me.
Yeah.
And when I make comments saying alcohol will become irrelevant, and people are asking questions like, "Oh, am I going to feel like this in 3 years or 4 years?" Not if you don't want to.
Yeah.
Not if you keep focusing on what you can't do.
Yeah.
People ask when, they know dates, they know what month, what day, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't tell you that. So it was after my 40th birthday, 2014. But I can tell you, when I did my first 100-mile bike ride.
Yeah.
Which is kind of irrelevant now, right? But it isn't. It has relevance because that is all I focused on.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's much better to focus on an achievement that was driving you in a direction you want than looking back on a date of leaving something that you don't want to be part of your life behind. That was just a day that ended. It doesn't have to be a day of remembrance every day afterwards, does it? Because it's just taking you back to that space every time you think about it.
So I talk about, neural networks, because we have a neural network for everything we do, our behaviors, where we go, what we do, right, et cetera, et cetera. So when people are continually focusing on alcohol or their addiction, you're just reinforcing all that wiring which is associated with those things.
Yep.
Yeah. So your relationship to those things, you're still thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I found myself in this very predicament 2 weeks ago. So with all the work I've done on myself and over the years and going months and months without drinking, all that sort of stuff, I got to just before the middle of January and just felt this compounding weight of everything coming in on top of me. Like I would have 25 years ago when things were going pear-shaped with my father in a coma. I was in the process of quitting my job, and it was like you said earlier, it just felt like every single thing around me was stress. And as if I'd just turned back the clock, my brain just went, need a drink, need a drink, need a drink. Yeah. And I succumbed to it for not every night or anything, nothing like the halcyon days of being a king drinker at the pub or anything, but enough that it was a concern. And a couple of nights that were big enough to be a real concern of come on, man, you've done all this work for so long, you know what's going on. So yeah, it's a blessing. I'm thankful that, not thankful like how I've proven I can slip back into that if things are bad enough, but I'm thankful that I've done enough work that I can pull back out of it pretty rapidly without things, and did a lot of work in the past week. And it's funny how different you feel. It's the same as when you stop drinking in the first place. After that first week or two, how you look back and go, oh shit, this is what it feels like to be a non-drinker. And you realize how cloudy your judgment had been and how you were surrounded in brain fog forever just through that couple of big nights. And being off it again now, I'm getting that feeling again of that excitement of, oh, this is that feeling again where everything's there. And like you said, you're hydrated, you're sleeping better. And I don't know, I feel like a kid learning to ride a bike all over again. It's quite exciting. It was terrifying for a moment.
But where we're using a substance or an activity to numb and distract, it does feel like you're living life again. It feels more like, I've always had friends. I'm not saying that. And I've spoken to people about this recently, actually. I never quite felt like I fitted in. We moved when I was younger. So it's another story, right? But we moved when I was younger, and I always had this thing that I didn't feel like I really, truly fitted in.
Yeah.
What was I saying again? Gone off on one. So you were saying about, where were we? So you said about go right. You were drinking and then you stopped, and then
and that was when everything became clearer for me.
Yeah, so I'm saying it's wow. So it's a lot more like life is just more like you are when you're a kid. You're not up here so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got more clarity in your mind, but you're not up here so much anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not tarnished.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying, we got to deal with certain things because that's life, but it's less dramatic now. Because, I mean, when we're stressed anyway, because of the chemicals, cortisol, adrenaline, and all these things, and our brain lacks coherence. It breaks up, so it doesn't work like it should anyway.
Yeah.
Because we're stressed and we are not working properly, then you add alcohol, and then the body's got to deal with that stuff, and then we say we're not hydrated, we're not fueling ourselves. Yeah, I mean, brain fog. It's difficult to function, and then you have a drink, and all of a
Make
sudden,
it impossible to function.
after you've had one or two drinks, it's just like, oh, but you're not functioning any better. But you're back in that world, aren't you? You're giving your body what it wants, and the imbalances and all these things that are going on that you're really unaware of. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, yeah, I feel like me again now. Oh, I'm better now. I'm relaxed now.
Yeah.
And you can kind of, you get tingly feelings in your head, and you get tingly feelings in your body, in your arms. And it's almost like you can feel it filling you. And it's like a feeling of, relaxation, and it's not, but that's how it feels.
It feels like
I mean, it's a temporary thing, isn't it? But I mean, that's the way I used to feel. You'd pour the drink, even if you were struggling, you'd get to a point where you'd go, oh
yeah,
now I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
Now I can deal with anything. It's fine.
Yeah, bulletproof all of a sudden.
So I can see that it's quite easy if you do come up to a stressful situation, because that would seem to be quite a stressful situation you just found yourself in. How so many people are now not with a level of awareness will say, I went 3 years, 4 years, 10 years. And there was a guy in a hospital bed next to me, and he was talking to my father, and he said he'd had a long-term relationship, so he hadn't a drink for 10 years, and he split up with his girlfriend, and he said, I went in the pub for one drink, and he's in the bed by the side of me, yellow.
Yeah.
All right. So whatever he's done over a 10-year period, he didn't resolve something. And what he's done is he's gone straight back to what he knew. And he didn't stop.
Yeah.
And he said to my father, this is the finest thing that's happened to me, is that they've brought me back in here. And my father told me that, and I was like, oh wow, I won't be that guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am seriously. I mean, that isn't meant to sound conceited in any way. Put it this way, then. I will do anything in my power not to be that guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is why I've often spoken about leaving no stone unturned. But because it's a process, it's not overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Try and do it all in one go. You're just going to go, where's the pub?
Yeah. Got no hope.
You're going to go, oh my God, I can't cope with this.
Yeah.
If you do this gently and quietly, and just be very kind to yourself, and discuss things, and start moving forward, build a bit of momentum, you have this inner drive. Like I've got an inner drive now, a genuine inner drive I don't think I've ever had.
Yep.
All right. And it isn't because of what somebody might think.
Yeah.
I'm not getting a medal at the end of it. Because I mean, when I started cycling, I loved that, I loved we'd do rides and we'd get a medal and we'd get a medal and get a medal.
Yeah.
And I love that. Yeah. And now we talk about how they're gathering dust, or if they're in the attic.
Yeah, don't even know where they are half the time, do
Yeah,
you?
because it didn't last long, thankfully.
Yeah.
Yeah, because for me now, life is not about getting medals. Because
Yeah.
a medal, right, isn't for me to look at and go, oh yeah, look at that. It's about me showing it to you.
Yeah. Ego again, isn't it?
For you
Everything
to
is
validate my amazing bike ride that I did. You know, and you
yeah,
think,
yeah,
really?
yeah. If only I could ride a bike like that.
Yeah.
I'd have a medal too.
I know, like I ride my bike with many different people. A lot of them are strong, some not so strong. I just love riding my bike now.
Yeah,
I do a lot of cycling on my own because I
yeah.
actually, after years of not enjoying my own company, I actually like my own company.
Isn't that a great space to find yourself in?
It's absolutely amazing.
Like I'm the same. Like I wouldn't say codependent, but and my number one value is connection. So I've always loved people and communicating and especially at home, I always thought, God, how could people just sit at home alone? Now, when I get the chance, I'm like, oh my God, this is good. I can just be at one with my own thoughts. I can process things quietly and peacefully. And now I can't get enough of it.
I love my friends. I love my friends. I love my family. I love connecting with people, but I spend most of my time in my own company,
Yeah,
and I enjoy it.
I'm
And
envious of
that's,
that.
and that's not saying I'm not open to things or I want to be on my own. It's not about that.
Yeah,
It's just about being finally and not being in the car and going somewhere to see a customer and listening to music and right. It's just sitting in a quiet room
yeah,
or coming home. I have dinner with my parents. I like to spend time with my parents because we didn't do it for so many years. So I come home whatever time that is, and then I won't see anybody sometimes for 14 hours, 15 hours, 16
yeah.
hours, 20 hours. And I think I couldn't have done that before.
No.
I would have gone stir crazy. Oh, I tell you what I would have been doing. I would have been drinking.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I would
Didn't
have
need
been
a second
sitting
one.
in front of my television with a slab of lager
Yeah,
because
yep,
I couldn't handle it.
yep, yep. Been
But
there, done that.
what we have to understand. It is a journey, isn't it? It's a process, and
Yeah.
it doesn't happen overnight.
No, no.
It's
It's got to be looked upon that way too. You can't get disheartened that you all of a sudden don't wake up one morning and go, "Fuck, everything's different. I'm great. Life's
and,
perfect."
and well, it's we're very good at that, aren't we?
Yeah, got to have that instant gratification.
Yeah. Where I mean that again, right? Somebody said, so I was chatting to somebody one day, and she said, "Well, what you've got to look at really is your bike is an extension of you, isn't it?" So, and I'm like, well, everything was an extension of me, which is what I'm saying about the gym and cycling and lycra, and it's all an extension of what's going on in your head.
Yeah,
Because if you want to be a cyclist, you can't ride with somebody all the time. You can't if you want to sit in a room and listen to vinyl, because I bought vinyl and I love my vinyl again. Yeah. I've
nice.
always loved music, but I bought a vinyl collection just to be able to sit here in the dark and just play vinyl, and it's amazing.
Yeah,
And all these things are just an extension of me.
yeah,
So so it doesn't matter what we're doing. So when we see other people doing so, oh, I don't want to do that. Oh, I don't want to do that. Yeah. I mean, the thought of me meditating a few years ago was like, oh no, I won't be doing that.
yeah. I
Oh
was
no, no,
exactly.
no, no. That's not for
Yeah,
me. Right. And I suggested people meditate. And then they're like, oh no, I can't do that. Oh, it drives me wild. And I'm like, you do understand why we meditate, don't you? It's because it drives you wild.
yeah,
Or one of the reasons anyway. So once you stop being driven wild, you've moved on massively.
yeah. You start to find it, finding the answers.
And when we talk about being open and more accepting, one thing we have to really look at is how close-minded we are to suggestions, right? But if we are to overcome any addiction, as long as it's coming from the heart, as long as somebody's not telling you from a place where they are telling you, we've got to accept some advice off people, and I'll try that.
Yeah.
And not dismiss it without giving it any thought.
Yeah. It's just picking.
I found that was massive.
Yeah, it's knowing what people are coming from that place of the heart and aren't just being judgmental. They're actually doing it solely out of care for you and love for you and wanting you to be around.
I didn't live from my heart for many, many, many years.
Yeah.
And I look back now. I mean, I was clearly in survival for a very, very long time.
Yep.
There wasn't. I was manipulative, as we all are. We can be.
Yes.
So I didn't like being manipulated. So I'm no longer the guy that says they were manipulating me, and you think, well, no, you're manipulative as well. I didn't do. Some things kind of came from here, but most of it was no. But I mean, I think a lot of my behaviors, and I think a lot of our behaviors, when we are in, I'm not being critical, when we're in that place, it's about us.
Yeah.
It's not about anyone else. And we are selfish.
And it doesn't happen.
When we're stressed and we're drinking, we're selfish. It's natural for us to be selfish. It's how we work.
100%.
But we refuse to see it. We can't see it. We don't want to see it. We certainly don't want to be told it.
No, it never goes down well.
No, it doesn't. Because being lectured, particularly when you're being lectured by somebody that's got a pint glass in their hand.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I always find that's really quite amusing. That is somebody that's got, oh, you're drinking too much, you are, mind.
Yeah.
And you think you're on a laugh or what?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Stop drinking. You and then tell me to stop drinking.
Yeah.
Because we enjoy it, don't we? We love, and we talk about this a lot. We always have somebody saying, "Oh, they're drinking more."
Yeah.
Oh, they're drinking more. They're drinking more.
Yeah.
And another thing I had to accept was, with responsibility, you've got to start turning it back on. What were you doing?
Yeah, there's only one person that has to be responsible for us.
Who else? It's not some of these things. I mean, a friend of mine, we were drinking. Him and I would drink for 6, 7, 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, whatever it would be. And he drinks now in an afternoon what we would drink in an hour. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit less, but that, you get where I'm coming from, yeah?
Yeah.
And we have these really great conversations now because he's not drinking quite so much. And we talk about our drinking together and, how it lacked responsibility. We weren't taking anything. And then he says, some of this stuff is really hard to take, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you accept that it was made up. Right. Yeah. And then he will talk about his upbringing. And then we talk about parents and who our fathers are and were, and and we laugh, right? But when you pull it all to pieces, you think, yes, it's all, not quite all, but it's made up, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's all just a story.
It's a scary thing when you come into this sober world to have to face these things sometimes.
Yeah.
Particularly on your own.
That's the challenge. I think it's doing these things, the tough things on your own. As much as we said it's great to enjoy your own company, Not when you're fighting dragons and demons in your mind. It's great to have a sounding board and someone to at least let these feelings out. Write them down. Have someone to talk to about it. It alleviates one element of pain.
Yes, and I think what I did, as I said, bullet a gate. I'll just spend hours on my own on a bike, whether I like it or not.
Yeah.
Right. And it wasn't forced, but it was forced. Yeah. And because I had all these issues about being better, which basically means I wasn't enough, I went out there and I did it, and people are like, "Oh wow, how have you done this?" You think, well, it was another battle, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was another war that I took on. And it doesn't have to be that.
Yeah, you don't have to always be fighting.
No. And now, I mean, for quite a few years, life is not a fight anymore.
Yeah.
Life is about communication. It's about collaboration. It's about connection. It's about speaking my truth. You got all these phrases, haven't you? But whatever I say comes from my heart.
Yeah.
It's meant with the best intention. I don't want to trigger anybody. I'm not trying to upset anybody. I share my experience, not because I'm saying, look at me. We don't do that. I don't think any of us are doing that, really. Right? No. It's to share the experience so others may gain information and knowledge from it, so they might have a better life.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
So, I mean, somewhere along the line, and it would have been on the bike, my body healed from varices and the ulcer and the bleeding and all these things. I laughed and I laughed and I laughed, particularly in 2017. I was cycling with two clubs, and one club was flat out, right, as fast as possible. And the other club was just laughing and joking and coffee and just brilliant, right? And then I go and see my doctor and my body's healed.
Yeah.
And then you think, well, do you know what? I in no way set out to think about the universe or a higher power, because I've often said this: if you're religious, that's fine. If you're whatever, it doesn't bother me in any way. Yeah, I'm not religious, but I now believe in energy and the universe, and something is bigger than me.
Yep, it's out there.
So how could this have happened, right? If something, and I understand the autonomic nervous system, and I understand stress, and I understand all these wonderful things, how our body works. But when you heal and doctors can't tell you how, and you had no medication, right? You think, oh no, there's definitely something bigger than me, isn't there?
Yeah.
And you surrender in, and you think, I'm reading this stuff, and I go, no way. No, that's not me.
Yeah.
Not now, but when you see it, because I see people, there's resistance with people about, oh, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
You'd be very surprised what you do and what you'll accept.
Definitely.
Because as you're pulling apart your kind of story and whatever, you're raising your self-awareness, but you're raising your awareness, aren't you?
That's it. Awareness in general.
You've done that.
Yeah.
There's no way you can't. And you think, oh, hang on, it didn't quite work like that, did it?
Yeah.
But that comes back to acceptance, understanding how things work. It doesn't work like we were taught. And I see my mum and dad now, like every time I go near them, they're a little bit like, oh, here he comes. But I've always got something to say, which is not what they believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll say to my mum, but I'll say to my mum, I didn't just give up drinking, mum. I didn't stop drinking. My body's healed and this and oh yes, wonderful. I said, how do you think it happened then?
Yeah.
Do you not think there might be something else going on here?
Yeah.
So we agree that technically, I was that close to dying.
Yeah.
And now I believe I'm alive for some reason. She went, oh, well, yeah, you can't, I agree with you there. I said, but you don't quite understand. You don't quite agree with me, do you? Because it's going against everything that she's learned.
Yeah, yeah. And it's hard for people to try to accept that big difference in change, isn't it? It's hard.
But that is such an important thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's massive.
If we're going to overcome these things, we must become more open to other possibilities.
Yeah.
I have found it so highly important. So spirituality, mindset. I mean, there's all these things you can. It's not one of them.
Nah, it's everything.
It's everything.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it, mate. Well, we've blown past the hour already.
Oh, cool. That's great.
We might have to jump on for a round 2 at some stage shortly.
Actually, so we'll have a lot to talk about. And Adam and Kerry said yesterday, I wonder if you can get it done in an hour. I was like, ooh, don't know about
that. No, we could have done 3 hours.
It's such a vast and interesting subject. The whole subject of addiction, trauma, stress, how we work. It's massive. And you can talk about it. I love talking about it. It's all I read about, it's all I watch, it's what I do.
Yeah, that's brilliant, mate.
You know, I don't think, I mean, I love computers and I love what my customers were doing. I didn't like work. This has got me on another level. I don't think I've ever been as interested in anything as growth and the whole way that we work and life works, and it's never ending.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate. Awesome.
You can't stop learning. Like there's always something you can learn.
Yeah, it's infinite. We're never going to know everything, even about just the one topic we care about the most. We're never going to know it all.
No. What do they say? The man that says he knows everything knows nothing.
Yeah, he's a fool.
He's a fool. Yeah.
And I must apologize. Like normally I'm all over comments, but tonight I've just been engrossed in, wanting to hear your story and what you got to say. So thanks so much for Adam and Kerry and Melissa and Caroline all being involved in the comments. You're awesome. And we should also, not forget that coming up at 8 p.m. UK time, we've got Dale Walsh back with the latest episode of Straight, Sane and Sober. And then I'll be rolling back on for Power Hour of Mindfulness tomorrow night with a little twist. And I'll be joined by the amazing warrior queen, Kerry Duval. And I think that's all the housekeeping I've got to worry about for now. But Jason, thanks so much, mate. You have been
enjoyed that, Steve. That was great to talk to you.
We've got to go again. We've definitely got to go again.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, no, I think we've just scratched the surface on what we can keep talking about along this topic and maybe branching off a little bit into other things. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, it's been great. I've really enjoyed it. Awesome.
Awesome, mate. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. Everyone that watches the replay, we really appreciate it. I'll play the sign-off video and we will see you soon. Bye, guys.
Bye.